from his agency, and then claimed that 2,000 of those was actually a mistake. So firing people, claiming they're a mistake, gutting the agency, taking away support from life-saving programs, spreading anti-vaccine conspiracy theories, that's what RFK Jr. right now is all about. And these aren't just mistakes, these are life or death decisions. Critical staff have been lost. Experts overseeing medicines, food safety, and medical devices, as we know, have been shut or let go, and we're incredibly concerned. I want to read this quote by former FDA Commissioner Robert Califf. Quote, "The FDA, as we've known, is finished. With most of the leaders, institutional knowledge, and a deep understanding of product development and safety no longer being employed, it is totally unacceptable that Congress is doing nothing to prevent."
Sparks flew in a House hearing meant to focus on restoring trust in the FDA, but the discussion quickly veered into a heated debate over vaccines, conspiracy theories, and the future of public health in America. What started as a policy critique ended with raised voices and a direct personal accusation aimed at Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you want clear breakdowns of moments like this and what they actually mean, make sure to subscribe for ongoing coverage.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Garcia from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to first begin by thanking all of our witnesses for being here and for your testimony, obviously for all the comments that we've heard here from both sides of the aisle in the committee. I do think that it's ironic that we're holding a hearing on restoring the trust in the FDA while we're ignoring the single biggest threat to public health today, which is, of course, Donald Trump's health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, together with Elon Musk, RFK Jr. is actively undermining the institutions that protect public health and the safety of all Americans. Now, we know that RFK Jr. already has a history of outrageous medical opinions and a dangerous anti-vax record. Now, let's just look at the measles alone. Before the measles vaccine, we know that measles would kill 400 to 500 American children annually. Now, after, of course, that vaccine was released, that number fell to almost nothing. But now, with RFK's anti-vax movement growing and his dysfunction at HHS, we've seen over 600 confirmed measles cases across 22 jurisdictions, and that, of course, is not a coincidence. We also know that this is also just the beginning. This committee is not serious about actually taking on the public health threat of measles, which, by the way, our measles cases today is 50 times higher than we have trans athletes in college sports, yet they obsess about that every single day. The committee is obsessed with things that don't matter, but not the public health of actual Americans and children. But by the way, children are now actually dying. And we know that, of course, that's just the beginning. RFK Jr. has said that 5G and Wi-Fi can cause brain damage, ADHD, radiation sickness. He's said that pesticides are actually turning people transgender. He's even questioned whether HIV causes AIDS. He's made comments, of course, that alkyl nitrite, better known as poppers, the sum, is the actual cause of AIDS. He said during a campaign event that 100% of the people who died, the first 1,000 who had AIDS, were people who were addicted to poppers. In his 2021 book and 2023 interview with the New York Times and New York Magazine, he repeated claims that question the causes of AIDS despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. In my opinion, RFK Jr. has been and will always be a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. He should be anywhere near HHS, medical opinion, and our research in this country. Now, Dr. Kessler, I hate to have to even ask you this, but is there any serious medical evidence that HIV does not cause AIDS?
No.
Thank you. And that's exactly why these cuts by DOJ and RFK Jr. to HIV research, treatment, prevention are so dangerous. Public health experts warn that these actions will set us back decades. Now, despite Donald Trump's 2019 State of the Union promise to end the HIV epidemic, we've seen over $800 million in HIV research actually cut. HHS, the Office of Infectious Disease and HIV Policy has been shuttered. CDC surveillance efforts have been gutted. PEPFAR, the Global Fund, all, of course, life-saving initiatives are being dismantled. Now, Dr. Kessler, you led the effort to fast-track approval for life-saving AIDS programs. Can you just briefly, in a sentence or two, explain how DOJ is going after the work?
I also chaired the board of the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation. With President Bush, the son, right, that was I mean, the goal was to stop mother-to-child transmission throughout the world of HIV. It was the moral conscience of this nation, right? Global health relies on America, and that has been drastically cut.
That's absolutely right, sir. And we also know that RFK Jr., while this is happening globally and here back home, he's fired 10,000 people from his agency and then claimed that 2,000 of those was actually a mistake. So firing people, claiming they're a mistake, gutting the agency, taking away support from life-saving programs, spreading anti-vaccine conspiracy theories, that's what RFK Jr. right now is all about. And these aren't just mistakes, these are life or death decisions. Critical staff have been lost. Experts overseeing medicines, food safety, and medical devices, as we know, have been shut or let go, and we're incredibly concerned. I want to read this quote by former FDA Commissioner Robert Califf. Quote, "The FDA, as we've known, is finished. With most of the leaders, institutional knowledge, and a deep understanding of product development and safety no longer being employed, it is totally unacceptable that Congress is doing nothing to prevent, of course, this absolute destruction of our public health infrastructure. We need to stop this now." And with that, I yield back.
Gentlemen, yield back. I just have to comment, Mr. Garcia, in all good faith. The predecessor for the ranking member, Mr. Raskin, said that those of us who wondered if COVID came from the lab at Wuhan, we were conspiracy theorists. And when we started suggesting that maybe former President Biden was in mental decline, that we were conspiracy theorists. And now, there's just books coming out by all these Democrat journalists every day saying what we had wondered too. I'm not defending or trashing what you said about Robert F. Kennedy. It's just that conspiracy theories are in the eyes of the beholder. So,
Sir, do you think that children should be getting the measles vaccine?
That
children should be receiving the measles vaccine?
All my children are vaccinated.
And do you think that we should be getting vaccinated for COVID?
Well, I think there's a lot of questions about COVID that we need answered. But measles, yes.
And
I recognize this.
And again, our current HHS secretary is a anti-vax conspiracy theorist, and that is a fact. He caused a measles outbreak in another country that caused the death. Absolutely. That caused.
No, he did not.
He absolutely did.
That's a lie. RFK did not cause a measles outbreak.
Ms. Greene,
you sound
Ms.
ignorant.
Greene, you are an
that's
anti-vax.
Ignorant,
you are
and
an
that's a lie.
anti-vax conspiracy
no, I'm
theorist
for
yourself.
choice. I'm
You're
for
the
parents
number one
and people
anti-vax
choosing.
conspiracy
All right.
theorist.
That was my fault.
Mr. Chairman, am I recognized? Am I recognized?
Our witnesses were snoozing, so I had to spice it up a little bit.
Wake up.
Representative Robert Garcia of California opened by thanking the witnesses, then immediately reframed the hearing itself. He argued that holding a discussion about trust in the FDA while ignoring what he called the biggest threat to public health was deeply ironic. In his view, that threat is Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. Garcia laid out a sweeping indictment of Kennedy's record, describing him as someone with a long history of promoting medical misinformation. He cited Kennedy's past statements questioning vaccines, suggesting links between wireless technology and neurological harm, and casting doubt on the scientific consensus that HIV causes AIDS. Garcia framed these views not as fringe rhetoric, but as dangerous ideas now influencing federal health policy. Garcia also criticized what he described as misplaced priorities in Congress. He contrasted the number of measles cases with the committee's focus on culture war issues, arguing that lawmakers are spending more time on symbolic fights than on preventing children from dying of preventable diseases. If you appreciate coverage that explains these policy trade-offs instead of just replaying the shouting, subscribe and stay with us. The congressman then moved beyond vaccines to HIV and AIDS. He referenced decades of scientific evidence establishing that HIV causes AIDS and asked a medical expert on the panel to confirm that there is no serious evidence to the contrary. The expert did so plainly. Garcia used that exchange to argue that cuts to HIV research, prevention, and treatment programs are especially alarming when paired with leadership that has publicly questioned basic science. He cited reductions to global and domestic HIV initiatives, including surveillance and prevention programs, and warned that dismantling these efforts could set progress back decades. Garcia also highlighted staffing cuts at HHS, noting that thousands of employees were fired, with leadership later acknowledging that a significant portion of those firings were mistakes. In his telling, this combination of misinformation, budget cuts, and staffing chaos creates life or death consequences. Garcia closed his remarks by quoting a former FDA commissioner who warned that the agency's institutional knowledge has been hollowed out, leaving America's public health infrastructure weakened at a critical moment. That could have been the end of it, but the temperature rose further when the chair responded. The chair pushed back on Garcia's use of the term conspiracy theorist, arguing that views once dismissed as conspiracies, such as questions about the origins of COVID or concerns about President Biden's cognitive health, later gained mainstream attention. He suggested that what counts as a conspiracy can depend on perspective. Garcia immediately challenged that framing by narrowing the focus. He asked directly whether children should receive the measles vaccine. The chair answered yes. Garcia then pressed on COVID vaccines, receiving a more cautious response. Garcia seized on that hesitation to restate his argument that the current HHS secretary promotes anti-vaccine conspiracies and that those views have real-world consequences. The exchange escalated when Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene entered the debate. Greene forcefully rejected the claim that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. caused a measles outbreak and accused Garcia of ignorance. Garcia fired back, calling Greene an anti-vax conspiracy theorist, a line that ignited audible tension in the room and briefly overshadowed the hearing's original purpose. This moment matters because it reveals how deeply fractured the debate over public health has become. What once might have been settled scientific consensus is now filtered through partisan identity. Policy discussions turn personal. Oversight hearings become flashpoints, and the question facing the country is whether public health decisions will be guided by evidence or ideology. If you want reporting that cuts through the noise and helps you understand what is really at stake in these confrontations, subscribe now so you do not miss our future coverage.